Looks like an 80s fucking music video going on here. The mirroring back and forth.
Everybody have fun tonight.
Jesus Christ.
Everybody have fun tonight. Congregation. Welcome to episode 21 of the LAZOR podcast, the weekly show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV series with a fine-tooth laser. I'm The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal.
This week on the LAZOR podcast, we are trucking along with our themed month of Patreon sponsored shows. This week we are talking about the first episode of Preacher, as chosen by our patron Jared. Big shout out to you. This is a show that I've actually seen before. I watched through the first season back in 2016 when the show premiered, but I kind of fell off of it after the first season for one reason or another. And looking at the ratings, it seems like everyone else did too. The ratings for the first season were quite high, but for the remaining seasons, they were very low. But Preacher is based on a comic book from the 90s, ran from 1995 to 2000, created by Garth Ennis, written by Garth Ennis, and drawn by his frequent collaborative partner, Steve Dillon, the late Steve Dillon. He actually passed away very shortly after this show premiered in 2016 of a ruptured appendix, of all things.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, what a way to go. So rip in peace to him. Rest in power, if you will. Rest
in power. Yeah. So he was exploded from within.
He was exploded from within by Genesis. Preacher, it tells the story of Jesse Custer, a dude with a shady past who ends up getting possessed by a supernatural force named Genesis, which was the result of basically an angel and demon fucking. And immediately after it was created, it was excised from heaven, and also in the comics too, if I recall correctly, God left heaven because he was he basically rage quit the universe after Genesis was created. And so Genesis is this supernatural entity that gives Jesse the ability to essentially command people to do whatever he wants. That's not really revealed. It doesn't really go into it in the first episode of the show, but that's what the basic plot of the comic is. And he ends up going across country, basically in a a road trip type story where he kind of just solves problems along the way. It's one of those type stories. And he's joined by his vampire friend Cassidy and his ex-girlfriend Tulip along for the adventures. This was a comic that I read a little bit back in the 90s when I was way too young to be reading it, to be honest. It was a very R-rated comic book. As with a lot of Garth Ennis's a lot of the work of writer Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is probably more known nowadays to people as being the creator of The Boys, which is a very successful show on Amazon Prime Video. He also with Steve Dillon, had a pretty prolific run on Hellblazer, which was the comic book that starred the character John Constantine, which had a movie based on it, starring Keanu Reeves. The movie has very little to do with the comic. It's very, very loosely based. Garth Ennis also had and Steve Dillon had a very well-received Punisher miniseries in the late 90s called Welcome Back, Frank. A lot of Punisher media since has been very much inspired by that story arc. The Thomas Jane movie even has characters like the Russian. Kevin Nash plays the Russian in that movie, like that character. That whole bit where they're fighting in his
That was pretty
apartment.
great.
That's from the Welcome Back Frank story. Um, after the Welcome Back Frank miniseries, Garth Ennis would go on to, for a very long time, to write a Punisher, an ongoing Punisher comic under Marvel's now defunct Max line, which were basically Marvel making R-rated comics.
Yeah, I liked them.
That I was a really big fan of Garth Ennis's Punisher Max run. I read it for quite a while. Um, that whole imprint was pretty great in general. It completely got tossed out the window as soon as Disney bought Marvel.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder. So as I mentioned, this show premiered in 2016, lasted 4 seasons. The show was the show itself was show run by Seth Rogen of all people, and indeed even directed this episode. It was this episode was this episode was directed by Seth Rogen and his longtime collaborative partner Evan Goldberg. So the episode opens with some kind of cosmic entity like flying through the cosmos. As I mentioned, it's this supernatural being Genesis.
I dig it.
But it's not revealed in this episode. But like I said, I'm familiar with the comics, so
yeah, it's flying around the solar system. I thought I downloaded legally watched the wrong show, because it starts off with like grainy like 70s film footage of like energy whipping around in like the solar system. Like
I know.
Yeah.
It looks like a low budget like sci-fi movie from like the 60s or 70s.
And it's like whipping through the rings of Saturn and just like having a good old time. It's moving. It's not going in a straightish trajectory. So it's like, oh, okay, so this thing is looking for something or maneuvering somehow. And it goes towards Africa.
Yeah, the continent of Africa, and then we end up in a congregation of sorts. Guy is preaching, and Genesis like goes and flies right into him, and immediately he's like, "Oh, I'm the chosen one," or something like that, and then explodes.
Yeah.
Fucking
at first everybody's like, it's a miracle. I'm the chosen one, and he like turns into red mist.
Yeah, it just explodes in a fucking bloodbath.
Yeah, and everybody freaks out and runs out.
Yep. And then we get introduced to our intrepid hero, Jesse Custer.
Yeah.
There's a shot here that really cracked me up, and I'm gonna make it the show art for the episode. It what does it say on the church
when he
sign?
goes out to the sign?
When he goes out to the sign, yeah.
Yeah, so when he goes out to the he's getting ready for Sunday, his Sunday sermon, and he changes up the sign, and somebody had changed the letters, so it said open your ass and holes to Jesus.
Right. Yeah. Open your ass and holes to Jesus.
Yeah.
And I proving how like juvenile my sense of humor can be. I think it's very fucking funny.
I think that kind of thing's amusing.
I
think it's funnier in the show because it's realistic. When I see it in person, I go, "Oh, those scamps!
Oh, those scamps!
Yeah,
those rascals!
Those rascals!"
That's Seth Rogen. I think it's Seth Rogen sense of humor like showing through with a gag like that.
Okay, yeah. Now that you've pointed that out to me, it's just like, wait a second, Seth Rogen did this.
Yeah. Seth Rogen himself fucked with the sign.
Absolutely. Yeah. He himself, yeah, he didn't write that in. He just went and did that. He got high one night and was like, open your holes to Jesus. And what happens here? So he goes and gives a sermon to, he's very hungover,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, he gives a sermon. The sermon he gives to his congregation, it's very, yeah, like you said, he's hungover. It's very awkward. Like he's like kind of fumbling over his words, doesn't really know what to say. He's like getting
He
his
loses a page.
he
Yeah, he's
loses
like,
a
the answer
page.
is the answer well, the answer is I'm gonna tell you. It's be humble. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And after the sermon's over,
There's
there's
like 10 people there.
yeah.
Or no, there's like 20.
After the sermon's over, there's and you actually see this a lot at small town churches. There'll be like a base like a church like picnic
Potluck barbecue picnic. I
after
know
after
this
the service.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
This is when I was like, okay, I movie. This is when I liked the show. I was like, oh shit. Like this is where I grew up. Like I fucking know the Sunday like potluck barbecue thing well.
Yeah.
And then a dude like fires his gun and shoots a squirrel out of a tree.
Yeah, and some this kid like goes up and talks to Jesse. Kid is the son of this guy who shot the squirrel.
The redneck who shot the squirrel.
The redneck who, yeah, it's his son. And he uh tells the preacher, he tells Jesse that his dad's really mean and like he hurts his mom and he wants him to do something about it. And the preacher is like, well, basically like, well, why are you asking me? And the kid's like, well, I've heard you've done stuff like this before. And he actually gives like a really a monologue here I really liked. I'm not gonna like go over it like word for word, but
It's in the long short is he's basically like, so let's say I do some of those things to your daddy, and he's a big guy, so maybe it'll be one punch, maybe two, but he's gonna get angry. He's gonna want to fight back, and other people are gonna come over too,
yeah.
and basically
He's like, how far do you want this to go?
yeah, it's like how bad do you want me to hurt your dad, and kind
Yeah.
of goes off because he knows how it's gonna go, and like his buddies are gonna get involved, and he's gonna fight them, and someone might take out a weapon, and the kid's kind of like, oh shit, dude, like you you
Yeah.
you think you're used to this, huh? And it's the whole violence begets violence thing, which I'll get into a bit later because something does happen.
hmm
um
Something does happen in probably my favorite scene in the whole episode.
it's
The bar fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bar fight.
Yeah. It's my favorite bit in the whole episode.
I
But
like that he humors the kid though, because
yeah.
he's like, yeah, like how bad you want him hurt, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Also, this is a recurring like subplot throughout the episode. There's this like Point Dexter. I don't know what his name is, so I'm just gonna call him Point Dexter. This like Point
Yeah,
Dexter type guy who is complaining to Jesse about his mom, basically calling him at all hours of the day, like insulting him.
throughout the episode, this guy is constantly trying to talk to Jesse about mundane stupid shit about his mom, calling and complaining about things, who doesn't even live in the same state.
Yeah,
And
I do.
his
I do
tired
kind.
adv-
I do
Go
kind of
ahead.
feel bad for this guy. And what happens with him at the end? Like, oof.
That's I'm a big fan of the World of Darkness, which is like a tabletop and LARP setting.
Yeah,
And
Vampire the
this
Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade, yeah. And a lot of those fans have said to watch Preacher. It feels very World of Darknessy. And I'll get into it a little bit, like why, but now that I'm like watching this, I'm like, yeah, it does. What happens? There's some time jumps here and there. I like the pacing of the show like a lot.
There is a fucking like this episode is quite long. Like it's just over an hour long without commercials, and
Yeah,
a lot happens in this episode. Like when I
yeah.
was watching
So
this earlier, I was like, "Holy shit, a lot is going on here."
there's a lot going on here to establish the character himself. A sheriff or like a police officer comes and talks to him and says, hey, you got to come talk to someone, which we find out is his kid.
His son, Arseface.
And
So Jesse asked
what happens
Jesse
here?
asked the sheriff. He's like, "Hey, because the asshole who the redneck asshole from earlier is like fucking
Right.
around. Like I think they're like beating up like a mascot or something like that."
There's like a political, I don't know what's going on there. There's like picket signs and like somebody punches like a dude in a suit
Yeah, yeah,
and they're beating up a mascot. And I'm like, what's going on
yeah.
there?
What is going on? Yeah.
Small town politics. They're trying to change the mascot or something. I
Right. Um, so the sheriff like you said comes up and talks to him and is like, "Hey, you gotta come and talk to my son. Like he wants to see you." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that like tomorrow night." But he's like, "Hey, redneck asshole, you should go and talk to redneck asshole's wife, because I hear she's I hear he's laying his hands on her." And the sheriff is like, "Well, if she files a formal complaint, I'll be happy to look into it." And he's like, "Well, you just go talk to her." And the sheriff just repeats himself,
like very
saying,
seriously, he's like, no, like his stance on the law is that he doesn't meddle.
"Yeah,
It feels like, right? Like he is the law and like that's it. He even kind of turns a blind eye to catching Jesse clearly drinking right before he's about to start his truck,
right, yeah."
right?
Well,
Doesn't
and like
even acknowledge it.
these people are like beating the shit out of a mascot, and like the sheriff doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so I'm kind of getting the impression this guy's a. I understand it's part of your community and you need to turn some blind eyes if you don't want the whole community to hate you, but like stop violence in the very least. What the fuck, dude?
Well, yeah, and like sheriffs in like a lot of towns like this are they're voted. Like you're elected sheriff.
Oh, and he meant that's what he mentions, right?
Yeah, and Jesse is like, oh well, gotta get. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says something along the lines of, "Oh, gotta
Got to
get
get the
that."
redneck demographic
Yeah,
to vote you in again, huh?
yeah,
I imagine that's probably the most important one.
yeah,
And he
uh,
basically, in not as many words, tells him to watch himself.
yeah. And then we cut to an airplane, and we've got this.
This jumps all over the place, and I'm all aboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
We're 30,000 feet in the air, and the screen even like it tells us on screen. It's like I think it says like up 30,000 feet,
Yeah, I
and
like the transitions.
we're on an airplane, and like a bunch of people are like drinking, like doing coke, and we meet Cassidy, one of the main characters of the show. We'll find out very shortly that he's a vampire.
Yeah, very very shortly. It doesn't beat around the bush there, or like even try to really hide it.
Yeah,
But what happens here is it's a whole bunch of CEOs and shit, right?
yeah,
And they're like doing blow, playing a like putter golf, right? Like drinking whiskey. And he's like a private bartender, one
right.
of two on the plane. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hit the shitter real quick." What's up
Um,
with the bathroom scene?
well, I guess we've discovered that vampire is shit in this universe.
Are they shit? They can do coke and drink. So
Yeah,
there's that. Um in the world of darkness and Vampire the Masquerade, they have to. It's like they magically have to slumber during the day, but it doesn't appear to be the case in this world.
no,
And it's only direct sunlight that seems to hurt the vampires in this world. If you're in the shade, you're fine.
yeah, and we see him out in the day, like
We see him in the day, but he's just in the shade of like a shrub, which
yeah,
we'll see in a later scene. There's another scene where it's like during the day, and he's just on like the shady side of the house,
hmm
like
Um,
drinking. So
I'm gonna say like right off the bat, Cassidy is my favorite character.
he's an interesting fella. I thought he'd be an antagonist at first, and then as the episode kept going, I was like, there's something else going on here. So Cassidy finds some crazy shit in the bathroom. He finds a Bible, but it's full of people like writing their own notes in it.
Mm.
Like batshit, like fucking crazy, like people in the street rambling like notes, like lines, passages are circled.
Right.
And
Annotations.
and then they ate him and they're adding their own like notes into it and stuff. Um and the word yes is scribbled a bunch into it, and he's like, and he looks out the window. This is before it's revealed he's a vampire, right?
Yeah.
And when he looks at the window, he sees the sunrise beginning, coming up on the horizon. And he mentions it to them. He's to gauge their response. He's like, oh well, wouldn't you know it? I thought we were going east, and yet there's the we were supposed to arrive in blah 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 before sunrise, and well, looky behind us, we're going west, and there it is. You wouldn't know. And he says something that catches them all off guard, and they absolutely shut up. And that was him testing them.
Yeah, so it seemed, and one of them is like so like it seems
All
like
of
this
them, everyone, including the other
ev-
help on the
yeah, every
yeah.
one of the, it seems like this was a very elaborate ruse just to corner him.
Yes, and when he pointed that out, and they all like completely sobered up and went silent, he's all like, "But I'm just a drunken Irishman. What do I know?" And they all like start laughing again. And during that laugh, everyone realizes something at the same time. Cassidy realizes that they are hunters,
Yep.
like literally, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they're there to fuck him up, and that like, well, they all know he's a vampire. This whole thing was this elaborate ruse to get him in an enclosed place, get him in the sunlight, and like fuck him up.
Yeah.
And then a very well choreographed and delightful fight scene break out where suddenly all these like CEOs and businessmen pull out like crossbows and a fucking spear and swords. It's like, holy
Yeah.
shit, man.
It's a this whole scene is a great introduction of this character.
And the world, I would argue. One, there are vampires, and two, there are hunters. There are people that hunt vampires. I
Right.
fucking dig it, man. And he does everything in a very like, it's frantic. If you ever seen Old Boy, how like everything within arm's reach is a weapon, that's what the scene is like. It's dirty, it's frantic. He uses a golf club to like hit beer cans at someone. He almost gets shot by a crossbow. I'm sure someone's lit on fire. He stabs a wine bottle into like the driver's chest. Sorry, the pilot's chest. Everybody was in on this. They all knew he was a vampire.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, I'm like, this is a very, very, very elaborate ruse just to trap Cassidy.
but I mean that maybe that's how, maybe it was necessary. And they were just trying to waste time and wait until sunrise.
Mm.
It seems like, to either make their move or just let the sun burn them and something. During the fight, like he slowly gains ground, and some dude has an axe, right? He slowly gains ground, and the co-pilot like sneaks up behind him and pours holy water all over his head.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Take this, you undead abomination." And he
yeah,
just
and
kind of turns around and he's like,
yeah, I think he says, when will you people ever learn? Because like he tries to like pour holy water on him and it does nothing.
yeah. And he's like, "When will you people ever learn?" And he straight up just like pounces on his neck
Yeah.
and bites him and kills him and drinks his blood. And
And here it becomes clear, oh, this guy's a vampire.
if you didn't know before, like what gave it away to me is that they're using vampire hunting weapons.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
swords and a spear and a crossbow. Crossbow's classic hunter weaponry, right?
Did
And
you ever play quick sidebar, speaking of Hunter, did you
yeah.
ever play the I think it was on the original I think it might have only been on the original Xbox, but it was a game called Hunter the Reckoning.
Excuse me. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Hunter of the Reckoning was a great game. I didn't actually know when I played because it came out in like 2003, I think, and I remember like renting it. And now it's actually backward compatible, so you can play it on like the Xbox Series console. So I have a digital version of it. And the game's still pretty fun. But at the time, like I didn't actually know that it was based on
White Wolf.
Hunter. Like I didn't know that that was a thing
That it
until a
was
few
based
years
on
ago.
the World of Darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. Cool, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good game. If anyone listening hasn't played Hunter the Reckoning on the original Xbox, solid title.
A little more competent than these guys on the, but maybe Cassidy's just very competent. And I like his goodbye. He kind of, after stabbing the champagne bottle into the pilot, he kind of like tips him over and uses the champagne bottle as a spout and fills up an empty like vodka bottle. Oh,
Yeah,
taking one for the
with
road.
blood, with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to keep his you know, to what's it called when you prep, when you drink, pre-drink. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
his
Pre-drink.
pre-drink going. And
But
if it has anything to do with the World of Darkness, presumably he'll need blood to heal himself.
right.
Or it has
And
nothing to do with the World of Darkness. I'm just tying the two together.
and well, and that gets confirmed later on, not too
Oh
far
yeah.
in the episode. So
Yeah.
yeah, he fucking just jumps out of the plane.
Jumps out of the plane with his vodka bottle of human blood. And
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
no
man,
parachute or anything.
that's when I was like, I really like this. This is fucking rad. And it just cuts away, doesn't show what happens to him. Oh, we'll find out.
We'll find out. This
And
show is incredibly gory.
oh yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
the exploding like African preacher at the beginning didn't
yeah,
give you a hint to what is to come. This definitely is. So can you help me out here? He's getting food at Denny's. We're
yeah,
back to
yeah. So
Jesse.
yeah. So we cut to Denny's. Jesse is eating breakfast with his assistant, I guess, Emily.
I was gonna say, is this his sister or is this his like assistant, or she's just involved in the church? What's the deal
She
here?
works at the church.
Okay.
I think she does like all of the like he does the sermons. Basically, she does everything else.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
And we it becomes very clear very quickly in this episode that she takes what she does very seriously.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
she's in the middle of working at Denny's and her kids are even there. So
yeah,
she is a very busy person.
yeah, and
Yeah.
she's on her break right now, it seems, and she's eating with
With her kids and
with
Jesse.
and
Yeah.
Jesse, and like her boss comes over and he's like, hey, I've had to like wait 2 tables already, and she's like,
Oh,
I'm just
muffin.
yeah, I know. It's like, and she's just like, I'm just finishing up, okay, like fuck off, basically.
I love how she spoke to him. She's like, yeah, and I'm just finishing and I'm still on my break.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, fuck yeah. Yeah, fuck that guy. I
Speaking
have
of
15 minutes. Fuck off, dude.
Yeah. Speaking of fuck that guy, while they're trying to like talk about like church business,
Oh, Poindexter.
Poindexter shows back up.
He's just behind him. How does he find him? I actually thought this guy was like a hunter for it while I was watching this. Because no matter where Jesse is, this fucking like dude, like, you know, like balding, always wearing a business suit, a business shirt and tie, right? Glasses, seems like a professional dad kind of type.
Yeah.
Always bugging him about what I thought
Oh,
was originally his wife.
I don't imagine this guy has a family.
Okay.
He's undoubtedly single.
Okay. And he's bugging him about his mom again. And I'm like, but this mundane bullshit. He's like, oh, my mom will blah, 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 and criticizes me about this. And always the ongoing little gag here is he interrupts him and he goes, hey, I got something else to do. Just tell her how you feel.
Yeah.
That's it. That's always his advice. He's like, you know, like, don't be afraid of her. She's your mom, and tell her that you don't like that. Okay, I
Yeah.
gotta go. Bye.
And it cuts to
Who's that politician dude like trying to talk to them? He got punched the night before. Does he
uh
become is he the mayor
I
or
think he's the mayor, yeah.
yeah, he was in like trying to disperse the crowd with picket fences and he got punched.
Right.
He's trying to defend the mascot or something.
There's a very quick scene of
Back in Africa?
back in Africa, a couple of dudes who look like they're on safari.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. What
Um, these guys, um, minor spoilers, but not really. These guys are looking for Genesis.
I figured
Yeah, they're
because at the end of the episode they're like, "Hey, we found him."
yeah, they're
So
working for heaven, I believe, and they're looking for Genesis.
and it's interesting. We find out that the theme of the show is this thing. I didn't realize it was one entity. I thought it was like many that were jumping into people and specifically like preachers.
Yeah, holy people.
Yeah, and blowing them up.
Yeah,
And
and I think
everybody seems to notice except Jesse.
I think the reason why Jesse, I could be wrong, but I'm just speculating. But I think the reason, um, like people are blowing up basically who weren't strong enough essentially to be inhabited by Genesis because Genesis was too powerful, but Jesse was. That's why he didn't die.
Right. Makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, I'm. Uh, Jared, if I'm wrong, let me know.
Makes sense. Um, so can you also explain? So, I don't know how they keep these things in those guys. Explain to me when he visits like an older dude, and he was asked to by somebody like, "Hey, can you go check up on what does he say? 1 second here, Walter,
Yeah,
or is it
yeah,
Walter?"
I think so. Yeah,
And
or
he
maybe, or was Walter Arseface?
here. Let me. I'm
I
on the
can't
scene
remember.
right now. Walter. Yep.
Okay.
And he notices that there's a gun on the counter, on the dresser, and there's a woman singing and showering. And he storms out and he tosses the some clothes back at Walter. And he's like, "Thanks for the warning, Walter. What's going on here?"
I think the woman is Tulip, who we'll meet very shortly.
Is that and he recognized her gun. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah,
yeah.
just making sure. Okay, I got it. I got it. I'm
Uh,
up
we get to see a silhouette of her naked very shortly after this.
with her hair in a towel, looking out the
Hmm.
window. Not afraid, doesn't give any fucks who sees her.
No,
And we get a
because
little not too long ago
it,
scene.
yeah, a flashback of Tulip like driving I think it's a Dodge Challenger. Uh,
Yeah, seems about right.
yeah, uh, uh, very iconic muscle car. Driving through a cornfield, and she like the person in the passenger seat very clearly gets their head blown off because we see like an
Little Pulp Fiction.
explosion of blood on the window,
Yeah,
and
little Pulp Fiction there.
she's like fighting with the guy in the back seat as she's
He's
like
got a
bombing around.
garrote, and he's like trying to choke her
Yeah,
with it. So some shit went down here, right?
yeah,
And the scene's good, but basically, there's a dead guy in the passenger seat. She's trying to shoot him. She's a cool chick. You know, she's Clan Bruja. She's wearing leather jacket. It's like a who is that Jason Statham series of movies?
transporter.
The transporter, yeah. It's a very the transporter scene, like fighting in a car.
Right.
I dig it. And to go through a cornfield, um, it's dramatic. There's a knife. She ends up kicking him in the balls or biting his ear off. That's it. She bites his ear off
Yeah, because
and
we
gets
see the
control of the
ear.
car again.
We see the ear later because Jesse like she has it like in a container, and Jesse like picks it up. He's like, is this an
Oh, he
ear?"
finds it on the floor of
Oh
the
yeah,
passenger seat, right?
and I think she says like, "No, I was eating shawarma."
Yeah, and just tosses it out the window. Fucking
Yeah.
great. But after the cornfield, she kicks the guy out of her car and kills him with a cob of corn. Am I?
Yep.
Is that what
Yep.
happened there? After kicking him in the balls. And some kids come out of their house.
Yeah, a little boy and a little girl, and she's
I
like, "Oh
did
hey,"
that so much.
she's like, "Oh hey, kids, are your parents home?" And the girl is just like, "Mom's dead. Dad's at work."
But I'm
But I,
10. I'm in charge.
yeah, I'm 10. I'm in charge.
I dig this kid.
And she starts like lecturing Tulip, being like, "Hey, you're in big trouble. You just can't like go around like doing stuff like this."
Destroying property and like killing people.
Yeah.
I dig that kid so much. And Tulip's like, yeah, but this is a bad guy.
Yeah. And we get a very Sam Raimi-esque like quick
I fucking
zooms
love that.
on
It's
quick
very
it's very Sam Raimi, like quick like her like looking, and then a quick shots, like the camera will
to the
quickly
moonshine
zoom
station.
quickly zoom in on a bunch of objects, and she's like, "Who loves arts and crafts?" And the boy like raises his hand.
But basically, the quick zoom in is onto a moonshine station. You
Yeah.
can make moonshine from corn, folks. I definitely know that firsthand. And yeah, who likes arts and crafts? And we cut to a scene where she had changed her jacket. She's very like mom-ish now. She has her hair up, she's wearing like glasses,
Yeah.
right? And she's literally seemingly is doing arts and crafts. She's getting the kids to help her. And she ends up making a makeshift
Bazooka out of like
bazooka.
fucking tin cans and shit.
And the ammunition is a whole bunch of tin toy soldiers that the little boy has.
This is some ingenuity right here. Like, holy
I
shit.
dig it. And I like the message that she says, right? Because they're like, oh, why don't you go to the police? The police aren't always good. Oh, well, why don't you get the help of a boyfriend? And it's just like, why would I need that? And she kind of gives an interesting little message. It's like, hey, like if you're a boy or a girl, like you got to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
You got to deal with like shit on your own sometimes, because you are going to be on your own sometimes. And I'm like, good. But then her good message kind of devolves because she's like, because when that son of a bitch ever like leaves you, you got to be able to track him down.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of tracking down, we kind of missed in the previous scene. She saw like a cell phone. The guy that she killed, he had like a cell phone that looked like it had like they were being tracked.
And it
basically
said it was like a GPS. Yeah, and it said 26 minutes. So
that's what inspired her to build this bazooka.
26 minutes, and I guess she presumed something fast, like a helicopter, was coming. Yeah, and she made a bazooka.
Yeah, and blows the helicopter.
She plays hide and go
sky.
seek with the kids. Good for her. Like actually like caring, because she hides them in the cellar.
Right.
And said, okay, no matter what you hear, you don't come out until the explosions and the gunshots and the screaming is done. She closes the door and, well, shoots the fucking helicopter down after there's a bunch of gunshots. And the kids come out to a gory scene.
Yeah, the
and the little boy, yeah, the pilot has like tin soldiers like melted into his skull. And little boy's like, cool. And she's like, hey, kids, over here. Well, sorry about all this. I got to go now.
There's a very quick establishing shot after this of Jesse going to like a factory or something. And we'll follow that up in just a moment. But then it cuts to a crater in a field, and there we see what's left of Cassidy, who is still alive, but he is like
Cassidy's alive.
He is lying on the ground.
If you were wondering if he was supernatural before, well,
yeah, his like the lower part of his body is like completely like
he has no right arm,
destroyed. Like his intestines are all over the place.
His torso isn't even there. It's just his like shoulders, his head, and one arm. So here's the thing: are vampires weaker? Because that doesn't happen to humans when we fall out of a plane. We just like slam into the ground really hard and our organs rupture and we die from shock. We don't explode. Or,
No.
and I was going to ask you this, did the sun hit him and kind of fucked him up and like melted him or something, or both?
Uh, I have no
Either
idea.
way, he's barely there.
Yeah.
It's very gory.
And we see his doggy bottle that he brought with him of blood.
And he goes
Uh,
to
it,
kind of
it,
grab it and drink from it, and it broke
yeah, it
in the
broke
fall.
on impact.
But luckily, he's got a little friend that comes and visits him.
Yeah, a cow. So vampire, well, and I guess this isn't too uncommon in vampire lore, like that he can feed on animals. Because like an interview with the vampire, the one character was like feeding on rats.
Yeah, but that feeding on rats versus humans is like drinking puddle water with like that someone used as an ashtray compared to like ambrosia. Like
Mm.
you can do it and you can survive, but like it is repulsive
It's not very enjoyable.
if we're following like normal vampire lore. So, but I mean, a cow's a cow. Cow's got a lot of blood, man.
Yeah, cows are huge. Like,
And indeed, with one hand, he pulls this thing into his like little crater
yeah,
and presumably eats. The next time we see him, he is whole.
he's like completely regenerated.
So he's used the blood to regenerate himself.
So we cut back to where Jesse was going to, and he's in like an office of some sort, and he's talking to redneck asshole's wife.
Yeah,
Um,
is this like a slaughterhouse? I want to
I think
say
I
he's in
think
the
so. Yeah,
office portion of a slaughterhouse
yeah.
because someone just comes out of another door and he's wearing like all white, right? And he's got blood all over him.
Mm.
And this is Texas. So
Uh,
I'm like, okay, so this is a slaughterhouse.
this actress here, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but I know she had a recurring role on The Shield, which is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh,
She played a prostitute named Connie.
she's only in this episode for like a couple minutes, but really good actress. Wow.
Yeah, no, she's great. She was a great character on The Shield. Her character Connie was a prostitute that Vic Mackey, the one of the main characters of the show, was kind of helping out because like
I'm vaguely familiar with that. Yeah.
he basically he got her out of a jam and he like saved her he like saved her like little boy, her baby boy and whatnot. So and he helps her out. He like gives her money and like it's like, oh, like kind of thing like, oh, you don't need to like turn tricks tonight. Here's some cash to go spend time with your
Helping out
son.
the people that have been uh,
Yeah,
left
yeah.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The character ended up dying very tragically in the show eventually.
Spoilers. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. Spoilers for an episode of The Shield from like
From
2004.
like yeah, almost 20 fucking years ago. But she rocks this here, and something weird surprised me here. And I was like, man, she delivered it in a way. The actress delivered this in a way that
So Jesse is like asking her. He's like, "Oh, so what does he do to you?" And she's like, "Oh, a lot of things." And she goes into detail about it, like
an odd level of
an
detail
odd level
about
of
it.
detail, like he like hits her, he like spits on her, like all that stuff, like a whole
Whips
bunch
her
of
with
like
like a jumping rope. Yeah.
whole bunch of abusive shit. And Jesse's like, well, you got to get a like,
Can you repeat this? What you said to me to the sheriff? And she's
and
like, why would I do that?
and then for some like fucking like weirdness here, she is like, oh, I like it, and I'm
And
like,
he's all like, no, no, you don't. She's like, no, I
and
I like it when he does those things to me.
and I'm like, and so I have questions here. So like,
Yeah, yeah.
do they have like a BDSM type relationship, or does she just like being abused? Because that's kind of fucked up if the latter is true. And that's kind of the impression that I'm getting here.
I don't know. It's like one of those confused boners. Like, is she brainwashed and I need to feel bad for her, or is she into that kind of thing and encourages it, or is she abused
Right,
and her coping mechanism is like learning to enjoy it?
Right.
So I'm like, am I supposed to have a boner? I, I don't feel bad. I'm gonna put that boner to the side for now until I find out more. Because at first I'm like, man, fuck this guy. Why is she covering up for him? And then she says, I like it. And she's got this kind of coy smile on her face that leads me to believe her. And I'm like, did the kid just walk in on too many BDSM sessions? Like
Just
your dad wearing a fucking gimp mask and or sorry, your mom and like beating her with a piece of like a skipping rope
yeah.
and be like, get out of here, boy.
You'll understand someday, damn it.
You'll understand someday, damn it. Now
So
get me another beer if you're just gonna stand there.
is this where we like go to Russia
We go to
after this?
Russia, man. We just fucking go to Russia. We're going everywhere
Yeah,
in
what
this
what happens
episode.
in Russia? They go to like a
So there's a
cathedral or
very
something?
big cathedral, right? And the subtitles let us know that it's horrible, the disgusting. The priest was um, exploded. The
Mm.
magister was leading us at night mass, and right away I'm like, magister, night mass. This is a church of Satan.
Oh, huh. I didn't even clue into that.
Night mass. Yeah, dude. And
Uh,
right away I picked up on that.
well, night mass is a thing in Catholicism too.
It is, but you know who really likes night mass like all the time, not just once in a while? Satan worshippers. And we cut out, like I said, very well funded, huge church, right?
Right.
And we go over, and there's a priest that's like screaming about how he exploded his brains. Oh my god, how is it that his brains got everywhere? And he really focuses in on brains, and I'm like, okay, well, this guy's grossed out by brains, I guess. And I know it's a church of Satan, or sorry, it's a the final seal that confirms that it is when the police go to investigate, they close the door behind them, and there's an upside down star with like a goat face in
Oh,
the
okay. Yeah,
depiction
yeah.
of
I
the
missed that.
beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goat whore.
Go tour. Yeah.
Actual band.
Big old goat face there. And I was
Actually,
like, oh, okay, so these aliens don't discriminate when they blow up preachers. That's good to know. He's going all over the place, but now I'm aware that it's like one entity like trying out, presumably trying out different hosts. And like you had said, none of them are strong enough or are the right fit
right.
or something like that. So, you know, he went to Africa. Oh, this is weird flavor of Christianity. Probably went to a synagogue or a mosque somewhere, blew up some more. It is canon in this world that what did you call it? The entity?
Genesis.
Genesis, while it was like hopping around looking for suitable hosts, it killed Tom Cruise.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's canon in this world that Tom Cruise exploded on camera in front of doing a Scientology like sermon.
That cracked me up.
Boy, oh boy, is that my sense of humor right there. And this is happening all over the world.
Yeah.
And
Genesis is really getting around.
He's getting around, you know, and popping heads a lot. And yeah, he got Tom Cruise. So you know, get good, Tom Cruise.
I guess Tom Cruise isn't strong enough to handle the power of Genesis.
And I'm guessing those dudes that are like looking for Genesis, it's shown a few shots of them here or there. They're following the news of people exploding, because the same people that were in Africa, they looked like they were on safari, like you said.
Yeah.
They show up at the end of the episode in Texas, actually right outside the church,
right outside Jesse's church. Yeah.
like literally a few days after Genesis entered him.
Right.
I'm getting ahead of myself here, though.
From here we go to
Tulip.
right. Yeah, there's a scene with Jesse and Tulip in a car.
Yeah, we get an Uncharted scene where she's like, "I got the heist of a lifetime. You're not a preacher. Come on."
Yeah,
that's when he
she's like,
finds the ear, and she's like, "What? I was
are
hungry
you
for
are you in
shawarma."
or out? And he's like, I'm out, basically.
She doesn't seem to believe him. She's like, yeah, okay. Talk to me in a couple days when you change your mind.
Yeah, I mean, lo and behold, obviously he does, because otherwise there's no story here.
He changes his mind about a couple things.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, his
Um,
faith is being challenged, folks.
he goes to from here. He goes to the sheriff's house, and the sheriff is making this really disgusting looking smoothie.
It's got raw beef, raw eggs. The fuck else was in it? Like celery. We're
What? Why is all the shit raw? That's what I'm wondering. Like, that's not good for
strawberry,
your health.
raw onions. What the
Yeah, it's a disgusting smoothie.
raw onions, celery, raw beef, raw eggs, and he puts it in a food processor, blends it up into a shake.
Yeah,
He's like, "Hey, Mrs. Blah blah blah. Like, how are you tonight?" And his wife is like catatonic, staring at a TV.
yeah.
He
So
gives this shake, this meat shake, to Jesse,
to
and
Jesse,
he like looks at him like he's insane, and he's like, "It's his dinner. Take it to him," because
yeah,
he's gonna go talk to him anyway.
yeah. And so Jesse goes upstairs and talks to him, and we're introduced to Arseface. Um,
And what's his name?
his nickname is Arseface. I
Yeah,
can't remember what the character's actual name is. Oh, Eugene.
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 So yeah, why is that his nickname? Why does he get picked on? Sage?
Because he's horrifying looking, and his face kind of looks like an asshole. I'd see this character is from the comic. Well, all of these characters are from the comics. This character was pretty vile looking in comic book form. Um, live action, I had a hard time looking at this guy.
You know who else does? Jesse.
Yeah, you can see
The
that.
actor
Like, the,
really sold that he's having a hard time looking at him. Not me.
well,
I'm like, whatever. Also, great actor. He sells everything considering he has this like prosthetic on his face.
yeah.
He sells it through his eyes really well.
Yeah, and so Eugene is talking to Jesse, and he's like asking, like, "Oh, do you think I feel like God's mad at me? Like, do you think he doesn't forgive some sins?" And Jesse, like, trying not to look at him, is like, no,
He
like,
forgives all.
he forgives all sins, and
Yeah.
he's like, Why do you think God doesn't forgive you? Hasn't forgiven you?" And he's like, "Well, because of what I did." And what he did was he tried to blow his face off with a shotgun.
And that's why
That's why his mouth looks like that. Um,
why his
nightmare
nose
fuel,
is missing and
nightmare
very
fuel
nightmarish.
to for me. I'm like, ugh.
And he survived, and
Definitely,
this is where he's at.
definitely not the definitely not the way I would want to go out. That's all I'm gonna say.
Or not go out.
Or not go out. Even worse.
Well, you have a friend nearby to get to finish the job. That's a two-man thing. Help a brother out. No, it went bad. It seems like this character's really upbeat and positive,
Yeah.
trying
And
to
he,
make most of what they
yeah,
got.
and he mentions, he's like, yeah, I kind of want to go to church, but my dad
I don't
says
know.
that my dad says that I shouldn't, because I might be too much of a distraction.
But then he reveals that he also doesn't want to go because he feels like God would be angry if he did go.
Right.
And Jesse, good on him. He's like, no, God wants all of his like children to go. He wants you there. And he's like, would God really forgive me and like allow me back? He's like, yeah, if you're repentant, then you can go back. And he's like, that's do you promise? And Jesse kind of hesitates for a second, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he hugs it out, and yeah, it's this character's supposed to make other people feel uncomfortable.
Uh,
I am bothered by little, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, but much like Jesse, I really didn't want to be looking at this guy.
Yeah, and then we cut to the bar scene, where in the background, it's like Tom Tom Cruise
Yeah.
explodes on live air, live
So
on the air.
so Jesse is sitting at the bar. We see Cassidy in the background, kind of just hanging out, fully regenerated.
Got some
Um,
clothes, new clothes. Yeah.
the abusive redneck asshole comes in with a couple of his cronies, just coming off of a Civil War reenactment, and
Yeah,
they're
and Jesse's like, "Hey, did we win this time?"
which that cracks me up because they're Confederate soldiers. He's like, "Hey, did we win this time?" I don't know why. It's like such a like minor, like little joke, but it just
I dig
really,
it.
really cracks me up.
Yeah,
And I love like Jesse's like smug, like jabby attitude toward this guy.
I'm digging it. Yeah, out he go. We win this time. That's funny.
Uh,
And he was like, he's like, haha, that's funny. And it's general. And he just punches Jesse. And
yeah,
it's like, man, does this guy obviously not have no honor? Like, don't like shit sucker punch him. And he's intoxicated,
right.
right? And it's a priest. What, man, if you believe in hell, holy shit, like, let me tell you who's going there. This motherfucker.
Yeah,
He's got a lot of repenting to do.
yeah. He's
Uh,
really pissed off about the fact that Jesse went and talked to his wife without talking to him first. Which I'm like, yeah, yeah. Uh, to what you were just saying, yeah. If there's a hell, this guy's going there.
and he's like, I heard you're real badass before you came back here. Why don't you show us? Come on, go nuts.
Yeah.
And while he's beating the shit out of Jess, he's like kicking him in the ribs and stuff. We cut to Cassidy
See,
talking to somebody.
Jesse responds when he's like, "So show us." He's like, "This is no time for fighting. There's a war going on."
This is no time for fighting. There's a war going on.
It's the fucking comments
Even
Jesse is
after
making.
he's already on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fucking comments Jesse is making to this guy. I love it.
Yeah. And we cut to Cassidy, who's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I had to jump out of a freaking plane. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lay low. And he kind of like looks around at like the shit hole that he's in. Yeah. Not a problem.
Yeah, he's like talking on the phone and
Payphone. Yeah.
yeah, a payphone, like giving
Oh,
a
hey,
status
before
report.
you go, can you wire me some mud?
The guy
Oh,
hangs
you
up.
fucking gobshite. Yeah.
Gobshite.
So it's another Irish guy over the phone. He's like, yeah, lay low, stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess he's just hanging out here for a while.
Yeah, there's a and as I mentioned earlier, my favorite scene in the whole episode is this entire like bar scene.
Something sets him off, and I liked that scene. The thing that set off Jesse wasn't him getting his ass kicked, right? It was
He told Redneck, it's like I've had enough of this.
had enough of this shit.
He tells the redneck asshole, he's like yeah, okay, whatever, like you do your thing with your wife basically, but don't keep your hands off the kid.
keep your hands off the kid. And he's like, what's that? Excuse me? And he's like, you know what? Oh, so it was that little shithead who originally told you, hey. So I guess I got two people to, all right. I got another person to beat after I'm done with you. And so it's just like, okay, well, regardless if your wife likes it or not, right? Or all of your like macho, like fucking abusive, like bullshit. But like now you're telling me you're bragging that you're gonna go beat your kid.
Yeah.
And it's that mentality. It's like, my daddy beat me and look how well I turned out. That kind of like stupid fucking mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, can you please beat the shit out of this guy? And the show doth deliver.
Yeah, we get a incredibly well choreographed fight in this bar.
And it just like he said to this guy's son earlier, like, you know, I might hit him, might need to hit him more than once. His friends are going to get involved. That little like foreshadowing there. All the Confederates in the room. So you know who the bad guys are.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a matter of
There's no
now
time
there's
for
a
fighting.
brawl.
We're at war.
Now it's a brawl. It's like Jason Statham beating up goons. Like his level of martial arts here is a league beyond any of these like rednecks like fighting in a bar.
Yeah.
Like this is like some like he has his black belt in 3 different martial arts like shit.
Some like tactical like special forces like
This
training.
yeah, Krav Maga or something crazy like that. Yeah, because he doesn't just beat the shit out of them. He like throws them over like tables. He throws them into each other. He even at the end there, he like walks over and what's the threat he gives him before the brawl happens? He's like, I just want you to know you're going to hear a sound.
And it's a
And
sound.
it's going to be a high pitched sound, like a squealing or a screech.
Yeah.
And he's like, ooh, a sound. You hear that, boys? I'm going to hear a scary sound. He's like, oh yeah, what's this sound? And he's like, and you're going to know it when it happens because you're going to be the one making it.
And then lo and behold, he like breaks his arm to the point
The sheriff comes in and he's like, okay, that's enough. And he's like, I'm almost done here, sheriff. And leans down and snaps his fucking arm.
to the point that like his bone is sticking out.
Absolutely, yeah.
And,
After he already kicked everyone's ass.
And the guy does indeed squeal, just like Jesse said he would.
Yep. And I was like, okay, the ass kicking is there, but the arm being broken thing, that's for you, the inevitability that you're probably going to go and hurt your family again. So you know what? The ass kicking is because you started the fight. The broken arm, that's for past sins, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I dig it. He's in jail.
Yeah, him and Cassidy get
Cassidy's
arrested.
in jail because he like kicked a chair and tripped somebody.
Yeah, okay,
because he helped Jesse a little bit.
I was wondering, because I'm like, what did Cassidy actually do? Like,
so somebody was
to get him thrown in jail.
Somebody was coming up behind him with like a pool cue or like a broken bottle or something, and he slid a chair across the room, and it got caught in the legs of the guy, and he like tripped and slammed his head on like the counter. That's it. That's all he did.
Yeah, and that was worthy of being thrown in jail, apparently.
Yeah, even Cassidy's, when the sheriff's like, you too. You and your weird friend here are both coming down with me. And he's like, what did I do? And I'm like, yeah, what did he do? He was just rearranging the furniture, sir.
Just rearranging the furniture. So when
they have
in
a little chat.
They have a little chat in jail. I don't remember what it was about.
It's basically like, oh, enough about me. What about you?
They're just getting they're getting acquainted, basically.
Getting acquainted, yeah. And bails up, preacher.
Yeah, it was.
So someone paid his bail.
Yeah, we quickly find out it was Emily, his assistant,
with her kids. Yeah,
with their kids.
And she reveals to him that he's done.
This lady always has her kids with her. And yeah, she takes him home, and Jesse is like, yeah, because she's like talking about like plans for the church. Like they were mentioning earlier, she was like complaining earlier about how like a nearby rival church has a Starbucks, and she's like, okay, so we'll set up in
the diner. Like, look at this church; it's got a Starbucks.
So, and she's like talking about her plans here, like, oh, well, basically we'll set up a coffee bar, and we'll get like someone to like volunteer to run it.
Okay, so coffee bar is like one thing, especially if it's like by donation or like whatever. Are you aware of the driving of the merchants or the cleansing of the temple? It's my favorite Jesus story.
Remind me.
Well,
terrible Catholic here, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus and Ennis, this is my favorite Bible beatdown. Jesus and his homies were going to Jerusalem, I don't know, for Passover, or maybe the story's changed a little bit. Doesn't matter. They went to Jerusalem, walked into a temple, and they're merchants. They're people selling shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what a house of worship is supposed to be for. And no. He made his own whip out of like rope or cords or something. He started flipping tables and like kicking people like out, like literally just like slobber knocker, like kicking them by the ass, getting them out there and just whipping the shit out of fucking people and flipping their merchant tables over and being like, get out of here, you motherfuckers. And him and his homies just like fucking kicked the shit out of all of these people and got them out of there, because that's a big no-no. Jesus flipping tables and whipping the fuck out of people is like my favorite version of Jesus. Not like the Jesus that, oh, I forgive all. It's the carpenter, you know, kind to prostitutes, whip the fucking shit out of out of people trying to use a place of God to make money. So I like the themes in this. That Starbucks popping up,
Yeah.
right, is immediately reminded of that. And
It's
that happens
blasphemous.
in real life. That,
yeah.
I think that's blasphemous. I don't understand why that's allowed. I'm waiting for the second coming of Christ. Just like, you know, like a brown dude, like with sandals, just kick open the door and he's got a lash and he just, get the fuck out of here. And he starts beating the barista, just fucking wrecking the, smashing all the coffee. What the fuck is this? Well, no, not the barista. He needs to like kick open the CEO, like when they're having like a meeting at Starbucks HQ, and whip the shit out of them. The barista's just trying to make a paycheck. Yeah, I don't know why. I wanted to bring that up. That's a big favorite of mine.
So speaking of bringing things up, Jesse tells Emily, he cuts her off and tells Emily that he's like, oh, I'm done. I'm going to announce it at Sunday's service. And she's like, oh, well, all right, cool. And he kind of like hangs around for a bit, and she
Yeah.
is like, what, are you expecting me to like beg you to stay? Like, no. And so he
She's like,
leaves.
yeah,
And
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
and after he leaves, after he's gone, like she gets visibly upset about it.
I don't like this. I understand that she seems to have like 18-hour days, always has her kid, presumably single parent, probably works 2 jobs, cares about her church, the community, like is trying her best, right? And this like alcoholic, like fucking preacher can't get his shit together enough to not get in a burly brawl at a bar, and can't even like get his like notes together. And but she's still supportive. She never criticized him, right? She's just trying to help. And now he's thrown in the towel, and her kids keep complaining about sharing the iPad, and she grabs it, the tablet, she grabs it and smashes it. She's like, there, now both of you share. In isolation, like looking at that, like that's not okay. Don't do that. Big no. Again, I understand she probably sleeps like 6 hours a night, has all these jobs, all of this, like doesn't know what to do. The church matters to her, but like, that scars your fucking kids, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Don't make your kids afraid of you. Anyways, just that's that.
So Jesse goes into the church, and we get like a scene of him, like, I don't know, like just hanging out in the church just at
Yeah,
night.
he gets a call, like this is like, I don't know, late at night, right? He gets a call from Poindexter.
Right.
He was like, oh, you won't believe my mom. She's like criticizing me about this. And there's some crazy like light action, like the lights are flickering and the door is slamming at the church. And he's like, hey, I'm busy.
Yeah, I don't have
gotta
time
go.
for this right now.
And this is like the 5th time he's told this guy, hey, buddy, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But
So
like
Jesse,
he said, he's just kind of hanging out in the church, and he does get on his knees and he's like, hey, I need forgiveness for giving up on this.
and well, here comes forgiveness, because Genesis comes swooping in.
Real slow and dramatic, like not like the other times it swooped in before either.
Yeah.
Really wanted to like scare the shit out of him, because not only does it blow the doors open, it slowly walks through the pews, walks. It has enough mass that it like pushes the floorboards down and the pews apart.
Yeah, like it's non-corporeal, but it does seem to have like a like spectral form to it.
Yeah.
Um
It bends the light weird. Like it's not quite invisible. It's like a predator.
Yeah.
Using invisi mode. Yeah. And the way it kind of like warps the floorboards was like creepy. I was like, what the fuck is this? Right. And we get a flashback as it like slams into him. because it slams into him just like it did everyone else, and he goes flying across the room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and while he's in his, we find out he's in a coma for a few days, right?
Yeah, 3 days specifically.
Yeah, and we finally get those little glimpses of him and his father revealed, the whole
Right.
story. And his father was a preacher,
Was the preacher of this town
was the preacher
specifically.
of this town, and there's a lantern. It's all black and white, and he's looks like his arms are bound or something like that.
Yeah,
And
he's got a gun to his
he's
head.
got a gun to his head, and he's like, "Hey, Jesse, I need you to listen."
Yeah.
What does he say? You got to be one of the good guys. There's
He says something akin to like Custer's don't give up, we fight.
He's like, "Hey, Custer's never give up. We fight. Remember that." Yeah. He's like, so don't cry. I'm not afraid. You shouldn't be, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
he's like, remember why it's important to be a good guy. And he's like, because most men are bad. He's like, well, that's right. So you need to be one of the good guys. And I'm like,
Great dying words don't get any better than that.
they really don't, man.
um so Jesse wakes up and Emily is there and she's like, yeah, hey, you've been asleep for 3 days. And she mentions Cassidy has like moved in to the church. He's like living like in the church now. It's funny, like a vampire living in a church.
Yeah, he's like, I guess that guy's got nowhere to go. He's the one that, was he the one that found him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think she mentions that he's doing maintenance in the church.
He's doing something to
Yeah.
get his way by. He's in the church attic specifically.
Yeah, yeah. And she is like, "Oh yeah, so like you're gonna make your announcement at the service, Sunday service today, because it's Sunday today when he wakes up." So I'm like, "Wow, he convenient that he woke up just in time to give sermon."
And again, so he quickly gets dressed, puts his little fucking white thing in there, like puts on his boots and stuff, and hightails it over to church. And wouldn't you know, one more time, who's here to bug him and ask him about his mom?
Yep, Poindexter. He is complaining about more like bullshit, and uh, Jesse says to him with a very like commanding voice.
And not only that, the camera does some weird shit. There's like a chime sound, and it zooms in on him, and the background is all blurred, giving us this like visual effect that that only Jesse is in focus.
Yeah.
And instead of giving him like a hungover kind of just go talk to her, man. Like you said, it's something overcomes him, and he gives him a very like powerful, very powerful advice.
Yeah, the advice is I think talk to her, tell her how you feel, and open your heart to her.
It's be brave, tell her the
brave.
truth, and open your heart.
And
he repeats that.
Yeah. And then
Poindexter repeats it like multiple times.
He gets this like kind of, especially like considering what he's about to do to himself, he gets this very like chilling smile on his face.
Yeah, he's like, be brave, tell her the truth, open my heart.
And
Jesse seems like, what the fuck? What just happened there?
Yeah. And so Poindexter like fucks off.
He doesn't go to church.
No,
he just fucks off very quickly.
And we'll find out very shortly that he jumps in his car and is driving to see his mom.
Like right now, yeah. Yeah. And somebody is playing an electric guitar, like doing like the I once was lost, but now I'm found, like some grunge version of
I was gonna say so we get Amazing Grace by way of like Hole. Amazing Grace if performed by Hole. And and so Jesse like gives his sermon, and
while he's doing this, Tulip and Cassidy are in the are there. They're in the church listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay.
He decides to not announce that he's leaving. He kind of bears his soul a little bit, and he's like, "Yeah,
I dig that. Yeah.
I've been a bad preacher. Like this town deserves better. You deserve a good preacher, and I'm gonna be a good preacher for you."
Yeah. Because he
Basically,
starts it like you had said, like, there's no sermon today. I'm just here to say, yeah. And he kind of turns around, like you said, he bears his soul. The town deserves better. Uh, the church deserves better, and he's going to be better.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like a lot longer monologue and like really hype, actually. We're yada yadaing.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
great delivery. All the actors uh, do a great job. Even the people in like the audience, everyone in the
The
church seems.
the congregation.
Yeah, there we go. His
Yeah,
flock. um, they seem pretty amazed that he was able to deliver this.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
Quite sincerely, it seems.
Yep.
Um, yeah, we get like a quick shot of like Cassidy like sitting outside, and here is where we get the visual cue that only like direct sunlight seems to be a problem for
Which is why he was
vampires in
able to
this world.
hide in that crater
Yeah.
earlier, right?
So he's like sitting on a porch like drinking a beer or something, and
Or
he
blood.
or blood.
We don't.
He like
And yeah, he's on very close to one side of the church. Presumably, this is the backyard or something, right?
and he like reaches his hand out past the wall, and so it gets hit with direct sunlight, and it starts to burn a little bit.
Completely lights on fire,
Yeah,
and he pulls his hand back. Not even like burn, like it is on fire, and he pulls his hand back and just kind of like looks at it as it's burning.
yeah.
So either he's very used to pain, or maybe he feels a little bit less. I
Um,
imagine if you get burnt, your body gets like exploded apart. You've been stabbed, shot, presumably a lot, run over, dropped out of a plane. Maybe that's like low on the list of your pain threshold.
right. Um, so Point Dexter shows up at the nursing home that his mom is living in.
Presumably Florida or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he flew there. Yeah, sorry. He's been repeating this like on an airplane during the drive there. He goes and visits his mom.
Yeah. Quite
He's like,
horrifying.
shut up, mom. You're gonna listen to me. No,
Before
he's
he
polite about it.
before he talks to her, we see a shot of him like looking at like a spread of like a table that has like a spread of like hors d'oeuvres and stuff on it.
The
And
last dinner, perhaps.
yeah, well, and presumably this is where he gets the knife. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't see that at first. Yeah.
yeah. And because we just see like his back to it, and he's like looking down at it. So yeah, presumably this is where he gets the knife. So he sits down and talks to his mom. His mom seems like very surprised, but happy to see him.
Yeah,
Um,
and he tells her he's brave. He tells her the truth. Hey, listen, mom, you need to stop calling me at all hours to criticize me. Um, like I'm a grown man, I'm your only son, but like it has to stop. Like
yeah,
I'm not perfect, but like you, I'm a human being.
yeah, and I'm your only son.
So like knock it off.
Yeah. And she doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he's like, well, and now, and pulls out a knife and like jabs it into his chest and rips his own fucking heart out.
Jabs it in his chest, reaches up behind his what's this part of your body? That cartilage that's
His rib cage.
the reaches up in there and pulls his own heart out.
I don't even know if that's physically possible, but regardless, like this was too much for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Okay, interesting. You have a limit on gore. Okay.
no, I definitely do. I'm very squeamish about like human gore. Like
Well,
I can see
because
like a when especially when it comes to things like 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 internal organs like intestines and shit like brains and all of that.
that's real shit, man.
I'm very very squeamish about that. Like it's no, I can't.
Huh. Yeah. So wow, this took it too far. It wasn't
Yep.
Cassidy and like a soup of intestines.
That was close.
It was the self mutilation and the human heart pulling.
Yeah.
So Cassidy Puddle was close, and this was it.
Cassidy Puddle. Yeah.
And yeah, we get those safari dudes.
Safari guys who are now dressed like a couple of like city slicker cowboys here.
Yeah, Ford F-350, or it's probably like, no, it's probably an Escalade or something like that. And he's drinking a tea from McDonald's. The label's pointed away, but I can tell it's McDonald's. And he takes
The tea bag,
the tea bag out and kind of like,
and then just
and
eats
eats
it.
it as if
So
he's not
these
sure what he's supposed to do with that.
so these guys are not human.
Presumably they're not human, and they thought, oh, like, what's this? Is this an extra treat in my drink? That's how I interpreted that, right? Like he didn't know that you weren't supposed to eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets out of the truck and he goes and talks to his partner, and he's like, we found him.
Yep, and yeah, they walk up to Jesse's church, and that's the end of the episode.
And
Yeah,
dramatic music plays.
and dramatic music plays.
I like his what's it called? Bolus? That like bolus tie neck. The little like jewelry that they wear there with the two little dangly.
Yeah. I'm not sure. But yeah, I know what kind of tie you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of them personally.
Some people can pull it off. My neck's too big to even close my own shirt, so I definitely can't.
It's too big to contain a priest's collar.
And the clearly, and it says All Saints Congregational was the church, and somebody rearranged the letters again. He didn't change them. He didn't have time, right? He just woke up from a coma.
Yeah.
And it says repent for he is coming.
Coming, CUMMING.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's close to being right. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I dig this show.
You know what, man? I fucking really dug this. Like, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, I watched the first season when it originally aired, and I was into it. I just, for one reason or another, just fell off of it. But
Yeah.
I think I might jump back into it, honestly.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jared, for recommending this show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jared. Like, I had loosely you know what? Siege had mentioned this to me like a year ago, 2 years, sometime, and I was like, huh. But man, if you had told me, okay, it starts with aliens, and they fly to Earth, and people get blown up, and there's a fucking vampire, I would have been like, whoa, wait, what? But I'm sold now. And also, the random number generator was very kind, because if I had seen a middle of the road like episode, I might not have been so hype about it, and I really dig it.
Awesome. So that was
there's not much to say. Like, we went over it. I think it's great. You said you really liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty clear, like very early on in the podcast, I think, that we were into this show.
Oh yeah, like I didn't even need to say. I think we are more vocal about when we don't like something than when we do. But this, the thing is, I was actually shocked that it was so good. I was like not actually expecting it to be this hype. So, right on.
All right, so continuing on with our Patreon themed, on the next episode of the LaserComb podcast, we're going to be going with our patron Bemused Horseman's choice of a show called Total Drama, which I had never heard of.
Oh, I have.
Total Drama lasted 5 seasons, according to Wikipedia, for a total of 119 episodes. So this show ran from 2008 to like 2014, and it's actually coming back to HBO Max of all things. A Teletoon cartoon.
Yeah. Teletoon cartoon. Canadian cartoon.
Sorry. Being revived by HBO Max. These streaming services are bringing everything back, I tell you.
Like, as in new episodes. Like, what the fuck? I'm aware of this because I'm the oldest of all my siblings and cousins and stuff, and I think, can't quite remember, or maybe it was someone I was babysitting. But yep, I'm aware of the show, and I remember thinking it wasn't that bad.
Sorry, not 119 episodes, 117 episodes.
Hmm.
So, now we're gonna figure out which episode we're gonna be watching.
All right.
So, to numbergenerator.org, one random numbers between 1 and 117. And here we go. Changing up my mouthing of the sound effect. Stop. 84.
Woo.
It's really annoying with Zoom because the screen share like bar hovers up it blocks the tabs in Windows in Microsoft
Right.
Edge.
Yeah.
So sorry, what did I say? 84?
Yes, you did. Oh,
That is season 4, episode 6, Runway Model.
okay. Oh, Runaway Model.
Oh, Runaway.
I
Sorry,
misread
Runaway
that
Model.
too. It's a
Yeah,
play. Yeah. It's
yeah,
a play on the
Runaway
word
Model.
runway.
All right.
Runaway Model.
So we'll be back next week with episode 84 of Total Drama. Um, I mentioned that we're doing all Patreon sponsored shows. If you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. And at the $10 and up tier, you get to do just that. Pick a show for us to do what we just did for Preacher. You also get, at the $10 tier, you also get our weekly-ish news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. And at the $5 tier on Patreon, you get $5 and up tier, so you get it with the $10 and up tier as well. Bonus preamble audio every week. It's usually like at least like a couple of hours because it's spread across like every show we do of us just like shooting the shit, talking about whatever.
Yeah.
The preamble that we just did recently for episode 72 of Too Much Energon ended up being nearly an hour, where we talked about some Twitter drama.
Had to do with Transformers though, so it was on topic.
It was surprisingly on topic, which the preambles usually aren't. So yeah, patreon.com/lasercomb. Go check that out. If you want to follow us on social media, go on Facebook specifically. Go to facebook.com/lasercomb. LAZORCOMB. Central hub for this and all the various other podcasts that we do. We're doing 3 shows a week now, currently. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow me at Lasercomb. Once again, LAZORCOMB. Where can they find you, Cal?
You can find me on Twitter as well, NeoCal, NEO_KAL.
Do you have anything else you wanted to plug?
Yes, little bit of a postpone, right? But there is another a small podcast like us, the Big Drink Energy podcast.
Yes, I believe they follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, and let me see here. I believe it's called. I'm bringing it up. Yep. So it's like O-2 heroes, O and 2. I think that's like a callback to like tournament, like you say O and 2 or whatever. But the reason it's called O2 heroes is because everyone on the show plays a game that they've never played before, and they have 2 weeks to play it, as much or as little as possible. And then we play each other, and then we talk about it.
Neat.
And yeah, so it's by the I think his hub is like BDE Showcase.
Mm.
Like how like we're like the hub for all of these shows are Lasercomb.
Yeah.
Big Drink Energy Showcase. Yeah, and it's the first episode they did Air Guys.
Air Guys, God bless the ring.
And Christopher Siege actually knows
Yeah,
that well.
Yeah, I rented it a couple times back in the day, back in like the year like 2000 or something. It's a game. it's not a particularly great game, but it's a like kind of isometric like 2.5D like arena fighter that we're kind of in at the time.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and yeah, it's the only reason anybody really remembers that game is because you could play as a few characters from Final Fantasy VII in it. Like you could play as Cloud, you could play as Zack, you could play as Tifa, you could play as Sephiroth. I think
Okay.
Yuffie might have been in the game too, but I'm not 100% about that. I haven't
Okay.
played the game in
Okay.
over 20 years, so
Yeah, and the game that I've been feverishly prepping to get my ass kicked. This guy actually plays fighting games. He was like a TO, like a tournament organizer for Smash,
I
Street
like
Fighter.
I I like his like Twitter bio. It's like it's something along the lines of like the best tournament fighter in my apartment building.
Yeah, and you know what? I bet you he can say that competently, confidently.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It cracked
So
me up.
yeah, we're playing Bushido Blade 2. That's what I chose. I've been giving it the good old maximal try, and can't wait to get fucking weight destroyed. It's one of those ones where like the match can end in like 3 seconds or like a minute.
Mhm.
Like one hit can kill you. Kind of like finicky, kind of like arena
Yeah,
3D fighter.
I've actually played Bushido Blade 3, I think.
There's a Bushido Blade 3?
I think
Oh
so.
shit. Oh, did you know that there's like a spiritual successor to Bushido Blade like being released this year? I can't wait to drop that on his show if he's
Oh,
not
really?
already aware of it. Yeah, it's called Die by the Blade, and it actually looks kind of rad.
Oh no, I'm wrong. No, there was only two. So it must have been the second one that I did play because I know that I know the one that I played when I was younger had a number in it, so it must have been Bushido
Wait, is
Blade
it
2.
already out? Am I dumb? Oh, planned release date to be determined. Yeah,
Mhm.
but check it out on Steam. Apparently, it's the supposed to be just like it. It's like a cyberpunk, like modern samurai game that's supposed to be like, one hit kills. How the direction you parry matters, right? Like if you
Mhm.
parry horizontal attack properly, then you get an opening, and there are vertical attacks and like that kind of thing, and it'll be fun. I wonder if I got Siege to download this like right now, I bet you just be able to beat me. Like I'm not good at these games without any
I
practice or anything. I bet you just be able to pick up the controller and beat me.
oh I'm not good at any of those kind of games.
No,
And you should tell him to like play Heavy Metal Geomatrix
fuck
sometime.
is that?
Heavy Metal Geomatrix. It was a Dreamcast game. It was a game I fucking loved when I was like 16. It was a Dreamcast like arena fighter based on the Heavy Metal magazine property, and like the soundtrack had like Megadeth and like Rob Halford and like Corrosion of Conformity and shit.
Dude, I'm looking at the Dreamcast cover, which is very heavy metal. I've got like
It is.
20, 30. I've got like 30 heavy metal magazines. And
Yeah,
I almost thought you meant twisted metal at first. I was like, what?
no, Heavy Metal Geomatrix.
This looks bananas, dude.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
you know
pretty
what?
rad.
Maybe if you know, free time goes up, maybe you can be the one of the next one up. Because man, I don't know many humans who've heard of this game.
Right.
That
Yeah,
looks
no, probably
bananas.
probably not. No. Yeah, the and the soundtrack was done by all the artists on the soundtrack were all bands that were on Sanctuary Records at the time.
Yeah, Megadeth, Biohazard, Dust to Dust, Wasp,
Yeah.
Motorhead's on there.
Yeah.
No
Dust to
shit.
Dust, a band I actually liked when I was a teenager, and I discovered them through that game. They're a band that went nowhere. They released two albums and then broke up. And the second album was just like the main dude, like the guitarist and vocalist, like doing all instruments, and he like basically like self-released the second album, and then the project just ended. I actually went back and listened to them recently, and they're kind of like musically, they're kind of like I don't know, like Corn meets Godsmack. with like that's slightly
That takes me back.
that's a slightly heavier. Um, but yeah, it's very much music of its time.
You know who was into Korn and Godsmack? Like all
Video
good
Cow?
Christian kids, this guy.
Uh,
I feel like it's all like Godsmack was. I feel like it could have been Christian rock. Was it? Am I wrong? I don't know.
no, definitely not.
No.
Although one of the guitarists of Korn, I think, left in like a decade or so ago. He left the band to like start a Christian rock band.
So I wasn't that far.
You weren't that far off, really. All right, I think
That's enough of our ranting. Yeah.
That about does it for this episode of the LaserComb podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Take a trip to another dimension.